All right, we need to move to more current events tonight. And what we want to talk about is a color revolution that is occurring in the United States, I believe, and a lot of other folks believe. And I want to show you some sound clips of some old things and some new about color revolutions. If you know a little bit of history of color revolutions, the name came after the Rose Revolution, Orange Revolution, the Tulip Revolution, in Georgia, Ukraine, and Kyrgyzstan. Sorry about that. Anyway, you will hear in these color revolutions the concept of a peaceful revolution to get rid of authoritarians or those who they claim to be authoritarians, to stop a genocide or stop these authoritarian dictators so that we can have our liberal democracy and our so-called freedoms and do this with compassion. Those are all buzzwords, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Freedom, compassion, those are all from the Truth Ministry of 1984. And when you hear it come out of their mouths, they're not talking about, let's say, look, when someone says, we got to get back to democracy, I want to say, what are you talking about? Like 51%? What are you talking, because we're not a democracy. I don't know where you got that from. We are a constitutional republic, and yet you continue to say democracy. And it's either you, A, don't know your politics, or B, you're trying to convince us of something else. Anyway, you're hearing these things, and so a lot of people are theorizing that right now, what America's going through right now is a color revolution. And I don't know this, maybe you guys have an answer. It appears to be that many people in the West appear to be blind, even though its stuff is happening right in front of them. I don't know I don't know the reasons why people would blind them. Maybe there's a multiplicity of reasons that people want to ignore what's going on in front of them. I don't know. Maybe it's a fear factor, because if I have to deal with reality, I'm going to come apart because it's going to crumble my world. I don't know. Maybe that. Maybe they're just not even paying attention because they're so caught up in their own lives and they got the blinders on and they're living the good life and they're not even thinking that they're being undermined at the same time. I don't know. I just see a willful blindness with a lot of people, not seeing the threats, not seeing this. So again, let's talk about this. Again, they cried democracy in the color revolutions, okay? It's always that, and that the people they're trying to get out are the authoritarians, the Nazis, the megalomaniac, whatever. And what we end up happening to define democracy when they say that at Columbia University, or they say it at UCLA or Stanford, and these kids cry democracy, what they're really crying for is left-wing race, gender, sexuality ideology. That's what they're crying for. We call it wokeism, whatever you want to call it, cultural Marxism, whatever you want to call it, but it's totally anti-Bible, right? Everything they're crying for is anti-Bible. You can be whatever gender you are, you can be whatever sexuality, and look, we just studied about sexuality and how Satan uses sexuality to create idolatry. Well, okay, ask yourself this, since you just studied that, what God are you worshiping if you're transsexual or transgender? Because you're not worshiping the God of the Bible, even though you might say you are, but you're worshiping a foreign deity. Because whatever God you have conceptualized, either yourself or whatever, that God allows you to do that, right? He permits you, or she permits you, whoever you're talking to, permits you to do this. So you are worshiping another God. And that's why the seduction of worshiping foreign gods was so good. It's not just simply the sex being used as a manipulation technique. It's the fact that this foreign god gives you so-called more freedoms, less restrictions to do things, and less restrictions on your gender, less restrictions on your sexuality, less restrictions on anything else for that matter, okay? So that's when they cry for democracy. So here's what you have to understand. The politics of today are intersecting with religion. So I'm watching the two intertwine themselves, because what's being foisted on us is a foreign religion, is a foreign God, right? It's not the God of the Bible. So in a color revolution, though, you have to understand whenever they happen, like say, for instance, the Arab Spring, that was a color revolution that we did from behind the scenes, even though we were not supposed to be doing things like that. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, a color revolution is happening by the Biden administration to get Netanyahu out of there too. So they're doing a color revolution against him in Israel. Yeah, and typically it's done through the intelligence agencies of a country. So the CIA, the different things, different agencies are usually behind stoking this up, right? It's kind of like January 6th, when all those FBI agents were out there fanning the flames of revolution. Why were there so many FBI guys out there? No one can answer me that. I mean, I think you can answer. I know you have an answer. Really, no one in power ever answers that question of why there were so many FBI agents. Because you know what? When I looked into the crowd, we can see them. They're all dressed the same. They all have the same haircut, and they all have little wires coming out of their ears. Who is that guy? I don't know. He has a Bluetooth on. I don't know. But he has the same haircut. He's got the same shirt. They all have the same trousers on. This is really weird. Okay. Some points to think about. A color revolution creates dissent in the country. It organizes activists at the grassroots. What have we seen in the colleges and universities? Right? It's heavily funded, by the way. What have we figured out about the college and universities? George Soros, Tides, all these other organizations, Students for Justice, all this other junk, heavily funded. Use of social media, right? Yeah. Student movements, that useful idiots, basically. Create domestic unrest in the streets. Where have we seen that? Yeah. Antifa, Black Lives Matter. I wonder what's going to happen this summer. I wonder what's going to happen this fall. Domestic unrest in the streets. That's the calling card, guys. Foment the idea of censorship. They all do that. You can't just say that. Well, it's free speech. Yeah, but that's hate speech, and hate speech doesn't fall into free speech. I'm sorry, that's the definition of free speech. I can use hate speech, right? Promote civil disobedience, like they did at the colleges and universities. I don't know what they're going to do this summer, but they're going to do civil disobedience. Propagandize the leader as he's a fascist, autocrat, megalomaniac. That sounds familiar. Through manipulative propaganda, produce misinformation about political opponents and ideological opponents. Sounds like a playbook. Okay, just showing you what a color revolution looks like. Okay, use of compliant media, suppress and censor conservative dissidents, and elevate progressive left-wing dissidents in other nations. They hate populism. Says it threatens freedom and democracy, and they hate human freedom. But they say they're for freedom, but they're against freedom. Okay. Some examples of this: BLM, Antifa, January 6th, anti-Semitism on college campuses, right there in front of your face. Why are not people picking up on this? If I just showed you the calling card of a color revolution, and yet I know everyone in here and said, yep, I've seen that for the last 3 years. I've seen that. Then why aren't more people saying, you know what's going on? We have a color revolution going on in America, and that's pretty dangerous. We have a serious problem going on in America. Now, what you have to understand is who's behind it. But who's behind it are technocrats. Technocrats. And these globalist types of guys have been at this for a very, very long time. Very long time. And what you have to understand is, when you look at globalism or technocracy, which is the final form of government we go into, you have to understand it's unbridled capitalism. It's capitalism without any morals, because they have to make money. China still has to do capitalism in order to make money, even though it's a communist regime, right? It still has to do free market, some free market to make money. So you have to bring in capitalism, but it's like crony capitalism, it's immoral type of stuff. There's no constraints on it. So like Nike. So Nike can have slave labor, or Apple can have slave labor in China and no one give a rip, right? That the product's being made by slaves. That's unbridled capitalism, right? And then, well, it's keeping the cost down. Yeah, but you're doing it on the backs of slaves. Okay, so it uses that, but then it operates in a corporate fascistic way. It's a private-public partnership that comes, and have you noticed that it's controlled by the experts, that the experts manage it? And that's a very ancient concept that actually comes from Plato in Plato's Republic, where Plato talked about an elite ruling class over the commoner, because the commoner is just too stupid. They don't know how to manage their life. They're just stupid. And the elites know what's best for them. So even if they squawk about, I don't want to do this, they're like children. So we got to be parents to them and tell them that taking this is good for them, even though they protest against it. So the technocrats, what they want is total control, and they believe if they have total control, they can stop any crisis. They really believe this, okay? So they've come up with this concept of the expert class, okay? And if you notice that's in a lot of their talking, well, if I chime in on a medical thing or scientific thing, and I say, hey, you know what? Cutting up children and mutilating their body parts, that's really bad. Who are you to say? You're not a scientist. You're not a doctor. Yeah, but I don't need to be a doctor to have common sense. See, what they're trying to do by saying, you listen to the experts. The experts say that this is the way you educate a child. Yeah, right. I'm not going to listen to, whoever. What are you talking about? And when they do that, they're making people feel dumb, and people will buy into this. Yeah, you're right. I'm not an expert. I don't have a degree in that field. Well, do you really need a degree in diversity, equity training? Do you really need that? Do you need a degree in women's studies to have any common sense that a man shouldn't be in a woman's sport? I think I have enough common sense. I don't need a degree in women's studies or transgender studies at Columbia. I don't need a degree in that to know common sense-wise that shouldn't be happening. But what you have to understand, what's going on to the populace, and this is where I can't figure this out, man. Why are people letting themselves think they're dumb, that they have no common? Maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe I know the younger generation's been brainwashed. I get that. But why is everyone like, well, I'm not a doctor, so they're telling me to put something in my arm. I'm not a doctor. Yeah, but you have common sense. What's wrong with you, man? Wake up. So, I don't know, but when you have this Platonic mindset that everyone's dumb and the elite know everything, like Joe Biden is like the smartest guy on the planet, okay? And there's people, well, he's an expert, Brandon. You don't understand what Joe's been through. He had to compete against Roger Staubach at Navy, and Roger Staubach just barely beat Joe Biden out for quarterback at Navy. And then his uncle fell out of a plane and was eaten by cannibals. You don't know what he's been through. But he's an elite. They went to these schools. Well, you don't know nothing, Brandon. You're from Delano. You're just a dumb Delano kid. You barely graduated. What are you talking about? And Joe Biden, he went, to all these highfalutin schools and stuff. Who are you? You don't know anything about politics or anything. You get what I'm saying? And I don't know why people, want to be dumb. They're not. People are really smart, and they have common sense. But for some reason, they're punting to the experts. Well, I don't know. What's going on with people? Okay, listen to this. Please listen to this. This is from the 70s. This is the Club of Rome, the Club of Rome, globalists in the 70s. Listen to what they say.
A computer at the Massachusetts Institute
Bruce, you have to bump up the sound.
has been used to look at these problems, to analyze in broad terms the direction in which our world is headed. Sponsored by a group of businessmen and academics, the Club of Rome, its conclusions are revolutionary.
The most important lesson is that we're near the end of our development of society, which has been going on for about 2,000 years. That we've reached levels of prosperity which carry the seeds of disruption and necessitate a complete relook at the whole world's social, political, and other situations.
Professor Dennis Meadows, at a conference in Washington to mark the publication of his team study for the Club of Rome, The Limits to Growth. It concludes that economic growth always generates a crisis, that the road to riches is the road to disaster. They found that if you controlled everything, including industrial production, no crisis emerged. But this assumes that we will stop getting richer.
We're talking about a system in which the various balances between material output and population can be engineered more or less to suit the particular objectives of a society.
Reorient our activities and our attitudes on a global scale. And I think that is possible, but it's probably the biggest single task that mankind has ever faced.
It's important for you, I think, to realize that you have really the right only to have 2 children, to expect that you're going to have to make short-term sacrifices.
It's important that everyone should have a concept of the world as a whole and should avoid as far as possible bringing up their children in any sense of local patriotism, nationalism, and parochialism.
We now know, I contend, that we have to have a revolution, and we ought to be able to plan it.
So this is the first instance of globalism, as these guys are talking about, and they're saying that we have reached a point economically where if we continue to let this go economically, there's going to be crises. So we have to come in and control this, and we can prevent the crises from the economics. This is in the 70s. Now these guys, a lot of them are still alive, by the way. So the Club of Rome came up with this. Count how many areas they came up with. Yeah. So it's Daniel's metallic man. They want to divide the world up into 10 global regions. And this is in the 70s, by the way. That map comes from the 70s right here. That's from the 70s. That's from the Club of Rome. Okay? So they want to divide the world up in 10 regional areas, okay? So again, the color revolution that's happening is promoting this concept. That's where they're going with it. So again, according to prophecy, it'll lead to Daniel's 10 regional governments of the global government, right? And the other thing on the beast is it's 10 horns. So 10 toes, 10 horns, 10 crowns. It's 10 global governments, right? That's where we're going with the global government. Okay, so along with this color revolution is technocracy. They have to be able to employ it through technocracy to be able to control this. So in the color revolution, they're using AI, using digital identifications or whatever. And part of the color revolution is a religious component of taking care of the climate, okay? Tackling the climate crisis. So here's what they're saying. Amidst the escalating risk of climate-induced disasters, targeted interventions informed by data can yield multiple benefits. Leveraging data can significantly contribute to emission reduction initiatives, thereby aiding in climate mitigation endeavors. Leveraging digital legal ID data to track energy consumption, inspire behavioral change, and enhance sustainability measures can mitigate climate-related disasters. Now, it sounds very flowery, it sounds very lovely and wonderful, but do you understand what they're saying? We need a digital identification to track your energy consumption. Okay? This is part of the whole philosophy of the elites knowing better than you, and we will tell you what you're doing in your energy consumption because we're going to save the world, right? So one of the things that even Patrick Wood brings out in Technocracy is they combine it with the saving the planet with our health. Okay? This is very diabolical. You're like, what does saving the planet have to do with our health? Well, it's a form of Gaia worship if you look at ancient paganism. Okay? So one of the things you're seeing from the CDC, so they're doing this One Health thing. Okay? So they define this One Health thing as a collaborative, multi-sectoral, and transdisciplinary approach working at the local, regional, national, and global levels with the goal of achieving optimal health outcomes, recognizing the interconnection between people, animals, plants, and their shared environment. That's coming from the CDC. I don't know why you're throwing in animals. I don't know why you're throwing in plants. I don't know why you're talking about an environment when you're talking about human health. Because this is the mindset. This is where it's going health-wise with us. They're trying to connect these technocrats with the intelligence, that they're so smart, to connect saving the planet with our health. So you see the individual there, and then you can see it branch out to public health, then to global health, and to One Health, and then to planetary health. I don't know how my health affects the planet, but I'm sure they'll tell me. I'm sure they'll tell me how my health is going to affect the planet. I want you to think through what's going on here. They're connecting stuff that shouldn't be connected. You're connecting my ID, my digital ID, with my health, with saving the planet. That's got to be a recipe for disaster, I would think. But how does my health have anything with the planet? Well, you got to know a little bit about Gaianism. The practitioners of Gaianism are called Gaians, okay? These are flat out pagans, right? Followers typically approach the philosophy with a perspective that we should honor the earth, reduce or soften the human impact on the earth, and be respectable of all life on earth. Well, that sounds really good, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be bad to an animal, but that's not what they're going after. Here's a little video.
Welcome to a journey of understanding Gaianism, a philosophy that views Earth as a living organism, a being to be respected and cared for. From ancient times, many cultures have held this belief, sensing the interconnectedness of all life. Imagine a world where we honor the Earth as the ultimate mother, a nurturer that sustains all forms of life. Gaianism encourages us to live in harmony with nature, promoting sustainable practices and respect for all life forms. Ever heard of the Gaia hypothesis? It's a scientific theory asserting that Earth's physical and biological processes are inextricably connected, forming a self-regulating system. Now, consider this. If we adopt Gaianism, we foster a symbiotic relationship with our planet, ensuring its health for future generations. In the end, Gaianism isn't just a philosophy, it's a way of life. Embrace the earth, embrace life.
Okay, so somehow my living body affects the earth's health. Gosh, I wonder where this goes. So if I get a cold, that affects the earth? What's killing the planet in their version? Carbon. But I'm breathing carbon out, aren't I? So the way I can help Mother Earth and Gaia is depopulate the planet. That's how my health is going to affect her. Thank you very much. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Oh my gosh, these guys are crazy. Yeah, they are. The inventor of Gaianism was a scientist. Now, Gaianism goes back to paganism, but in recent times, is this crazy scientist, James Lovelock. He's passed away, so he's met his creator now. So he knows now the right, but it's too late for you. A climate alarmist who pictured the earth as a living organism was also a technocrat. Notice that he brought in the word technocrat. and that's what I said that these elitists think they are, who stated, we need a more authoritarian world. We become a sort of cheeky egalitarian world where everyone will have their say. It may be necessary to put democracy on hold for a while. Okay. So the two scholars at the University of Westminster continued, this threat of eco-authoritarianism is often linked to a rising tendency towards technocracy, which suggests that decisions should be left to those with relevant scientific and technical expertise. There's the expert thing. This, it is implied, will speed up decision-making and generate a more effective green outcomes. It all sounds really good until I realize what they're aiming at. So what you start realizing in the technocracy that they're developing, the corporate private partnership, along with the diversity, equity, inclusion, comes this Gaia worship, which is nothing but the green dragon, and I'm included in that health aspect because I affect the earth. Oh my goodness. So the globalist aim is to peacefully depopulate 6 billion people from the planet. How do you peacefully depopulate 6 billion people? Yeah, that's a start. Disease X, whatever, I don't know. But, you know, the thing about it, look at this graph that they made up. Look at this graph. This is coming from these technocrats. Ecological footprint versus carrying capacity. I didn't know the Earth had a carrying capacity. I think someone just made this up. But someone put on a scale, I guess anyone can make a scale. You can go home right now and make a scale and call it the number of Earths and the carrying capacity of the Earth from 1960 to 2010. And I'm just going to put a blue line arbitrarily. That's the carrying capacity of Mother Earth, is at a 1, because she's one Earth. So, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, well, he did, somebody did, and like, it's a joke. But look what they said. I guarantee you somebody, so the experts say, the carrying capacity, look, we crossed over about 1978, 79, and it appears that the Earth can't carry us anymore. You can hear them on CNN, right? Like talking stupid like that. They're all intelligent, and yeah, he went to Columbia, and he's just an idiot, you know. And then at the end of the day, you're looking at this, who made this up, man? I mean, you just put some numbers together and threw a blue line there and said 1 is 1 Earth. And we're way over. The model, look at the guys, the models are telling you we have too many humans on the planet. It's just, it can't hold it, guys. It can't. We got to do something. Now, I want you to listen to this wackadoo. He's the same guy I played from the 70s, but now he's a lot older, but he's still crazier than a bed bug. Way off the chart. Okay. Now, listen to him. When he talks, he's going to talk very calm. He's going to talk very nice. But you have to understand what he is saying. He is talking about killing people. Okay? Listen very carefully to this calm, cool, measured, wannabe killer. There's the word revolution. We need a revolution, right? It's always there, color revolution.
Well, since you are able to edit out all the stuff you don't like, I can speak honestly. I don't expect that we're going to avoid collapse. I'm not sure what it will look like. I mean, and so I simply don't know. I have many different scenarios, but actually we don't know. It's not knowable. I mean, some huge volcano could blow up tomorrow in Indonesia, which reduces the agricultural output of the planet by 40 or 50% for 5 years. How do we know that could happen? It has happened several times in the past. So usually speaking, something which happened in the past could happen again, generally. So that could happen, or epidemics. I mean, I don't know what it will be, but in one way or another, we are so far, globally, we are so far above the population and the consumption levels which can be supported by this planet that I know in one way or another it's going to come back down. So I don't hope to avoid that. I hope that it can occur in a civil way, and I mean civil in a special way, peaceful. Peace doesn't mean that everybody's happy, but it means that conflict isn't solved through violence, through force, but rather in other ways. And so that's what I hope for. That we can, I mean, the planet can support something like 1 billion people, maybe 2 billion, depending on how much liberty and how much material consumption you want to have. If you want more liberty and more consumption, you have to have fewer people. And conversely, you can have more people. I mean, we could even have 8 or 9 billion probably if we have a very strong dictatorship, which is smart. It's, unfortunately, you never have smart dictatorships. They're always stupid. So, but if you had a smart dictatorship and a low standard of living, you can have it. But we want to have freedom and we want to have a high sentence, so we're going to have 1 billion people. And we're now at 7, so we have to get back down. I hope that this can be slow, relatively slow, and that it can be done in a way which is relatively equal, so that people share the experience and you don't have a few rich, trying to force everybody else to deal with it. So those are my hopes. I mean, these are pretty pessimistic hopes, but I mean, that's what lies ahead.
And within that hope, do we need a revolution to come to peace? And if we need a revolution, what kind of revolution do we need?
So a key issue here is the speed of the decline. We hope for a slow decline because that gives you time to adjust. If we had a volcano explosion, that's rapid. Suddenly, overnight, agricultural production went down by 40 or 50%, just like that. The globe can't peacefully adjust to such a shift like that. Depletion of cheap energy is a slow process. There will still be oil 100 years from now, but it'll be much more expensive. We have a chance to adjust to that in a more or less peaceful way. So a key question is, what is the force that we're trying to adjust to? And if we know the speed, then that tells us something about the kind of revolution we need. Of course, it comes to question, what do you mean by revolution? Do you mean, revolution generally means a drastic shift in structure. So there's political revolutions. You shift from a king to a communist dictatorship, as happened in Russia back in 1920. That was a revolution. Or there are psychological revolutions. One guy came up to me this morning and said, I just quit smoking. And and he's very excited about that, which he should be. That's for him a revolution. So it's a question, what kind of revolutions you mean? Well, we need them at both levels. We need personal revolutions. We need people to reimagine a lifestyle which requires much less energy and material. You even can do that, in a place like the Netherlands. Actually, the Netherlands is a great example of efficiency. I mean, compared with the Americans, the typical city liver and person who lives in the city in Netherlands uses much less energy and materials than the typical person living in a city in the United States. But you could do much better at the personal level, and then at the national level and the international level, you need these other kind of revolutions. I mean, it will be a big revolution to bring companies and governments to really give importance to the long term. That would be a revolution. In some ways, it would be quite simple. I mean, there are easy things to do and hard things to do. I give you just an example, an easy thing to do. Now, at least in the United States, we reward senior executives by the price of the stock in the company. Even every quarter or every year or when they leave the company, they are rewarded according to the price of the stock, which gives them very bad incentives because they reduce expenditures on research, for example, in order to increase, or they fire a lot of people in order to reduce their costs, because that gives a short-term profit. But we could easily say, we will reward you by the value of our stock 5 years after you go. So you have to do, before you leave, you have to make sure that you left the company in a situation so that 5 years from now it's going to be successful. See, that doesn't require new national law. It doesn't require a new consciousness. It's quite a simple administrative change. You could do that, but it would be revolutionary in what it would cause, the incentives it would cause. And then at the other extreme, you have, some problems like to deal with complexity, you split things up into specialties. So in your parliament, you have the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Transport, etc. We all know that a decision made in one ministry has enormous consequences for the other ministries. By and large, this person makes those decisions without asking those people. And rather, they should do it together. But it's hard to do it together if you under the current circuit. So that would be a real revolution to start getting it so that a minister of, let's say, agriculture would do something which actually makes the farming situation seem worse in the short term, but means 5 years from now you have less energy requirement or less environmental damage or something like that. That would be a hard revolution. We need all of those kinds of things.
Okay, so the cold-blooded killer is talking about depopulation because he's saying, how do you go with the earth only being able to sustain itself at 2 billion at tops, maybe 1 billion, 2 billion at tops. So he talked about like a fast track or a peaceful track. You understand what he's talking about? He's talking about killing people, okay? There's a fast track and a slow track. We want to do it in peaceful ways. How does killing people a peaceful way? To get you to your energy goals, to get you to your population goals, because the energy and the planet goals means that you have to reduce the human population. That's all what he was saying. So this is what we call a cold-blood killer. He hasn't killed anybody, but he's the kind of guy that says, yeah, we need to eliminate human beings because they're the problem, and we can't sustain it. So remember, that's the same guy that I showed you in the video from the 70s. That's the same guy. The Club of Rome type of guy, that's him, okay? And again, just to show you this, let's bring it all together. They're doing a color revolution. He's mentioned revolution. They mentioned it in the interview, right? And it even says his name there, Dennis Meadows. They want a revolution, and that revolution means bringing in elites to make all decisions because they don't want individual governmental decisions because what he just said. It's too complicated. You can't get anything done. This guy does this, and everyone else does something different. Oh, so I wonder what the Club of Rome would suggest, because you already saw your map. So maybe a one-world government that can make the decisions for everybody would be a lot more efficient. And like he said, you know, under an authoritarian leader, we could get a lot done if he was smart. Oh yeah, there is one coming that will be very smart. You're right. In fact, Dennis Meadows, you're actually being prophetic. Satan is bringing his guy, and he will be very smart, and he will control the entire world. You're playing right into that, and he doesn't even realize that, right? But again, okay, so a color revolution to get to a technocratic age where the elites and the experts are making all the decisions for us dummies, and one of the main decisions has to do with saving the planet, reducing energy, which means the elimination of humans. So please understand, the color revolution ends up killing people at the end of it. So, communist revolution, what ended up happening there? 50 million people dead at the end of it. Behind all of these revolutions, at the end of it comes death. That's what you have to understand about a color revolution. That's why when I say that our world does not understand what is going on, it means the death of them, and they're not paying attention. That's where this goes. That's their mindset. And that guy just sat there cool, calm, and collective. We need to eliminate about 6 billion people to get to our goals. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, euthanasia. I started killing people off. Hitler did it. Mao Zedong. All of them did it at some point, and they didn't blink an eye about it. So what I'm trying to point out and to bring it all together, this is what I don't think Americans are awake to. They think these guys, these DEI guys, these ESGs, these corporations, and all this other junk that you're seeing, they're just playing tiddlywinks, and they really are no threat to me. They are a threat to you. They don't want you on the planet. They think it's better that if you had like 1 million people, then people could be more free. But notice what he said. If you want more people to live, then you must accept a lower lifestyle, is what he said. Didn't he? Okay, but yet I already know that actually gets played out. Because Revelation chapter 6, and I showed you last week about the coming worldwide famine, a quart of wheat for a day's wages. That means everyone's poor, but don't harm the oil and wine. The elites have all. So guess what? Their dream finally gets realized. They will have all the money, and every one of us will be poor. I can thank God we're not here, but the rest of humanity will be poor. So when I show you this, and I brought you from the 70s, I'm telling you, their plan is working. They are actually accomplishing it. It's taking them a long time to get here, but they're moving in that direction. And I hope people wake up. Now, the good news is, God rescues us before it really gets bad. And he takes us home before that. Okay, well, you know, I'm hallelujah all to that, and that's great, and that's wonderful. And thank God I don't have to go through the tribulation. But yeah, but you're responsible to tell people and warn them. So it's just not about you. Yes, you're rescued and you're going to be raptured, thank God. But so what are we supposed to do for the meantime? I am supposed to warn humanity. I am supposed to tell them they want to kill you. They are looking to destroy you. I am to warn the Jews. The Antichrist is coming and he wants to kill you. They all want death. It is a death cult. Understand, it's a death cult. They want people dead. So our job, we got to warn people. We got to get them saved. Not that we get them saved, but we got to share the gospel, make sure they get, if they can get on the boat, the lifeboat. And again, warn as best we can. That's what our job is, right? So you just can't just say, you know what, I'm going home tonight, I'm going to put on the white sheet, I'm going to sit on the roof, Brandon, and I'm done. I'm checking out. You can't do that. I can't do that. You're a watcher on the wall. The Lord needs you to sound the alarm. You have people who want to kill you. right? That should be enough to say, when we stand before the Lord, did you do your job in warning humanity what these crazy wackadoos wanted to do to them? Yes, I did. Until the day you took me home, I warned. Good job, right? All right, let's pray. Father, thank you, Lord, for what we can learn tonight, not only about the rewards of overcoming Pergamos. Wow, it's crazy stuff there. Help us to overcome that through your power and your strength, and help us to be that watcher on the wall, to warn people of the impending danger that is coming to them, Father. Bless us now as we go. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.